Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of ANC 34G01. This is the last meeting of the year for us, so I think we're all pretty excited. Get a little holiday break, and just to, before we even go forward, to thank the commissioners that will not be returning next year with us. Definitely the esteemed Randy Speck. Thank you so much for your years of service. Charles Caldwell, thank you for coming on board. John Higgins, Connie Chang. It is definitely going to be different without you guys. I've relied on you all a lot just as fellow commissioners, and you all are so talented and so smart, and just, it's been great to work with you guys. I know some of you will continue on with the committees, and I'm looking forward to working with you in that capacity. So my name is Lisa Gore. I'm the chair of the ANC, and we're going to go on and get started with the agenda tonight. I'll start with introductions, and I'll start with myself. I'm a single member district commissioner for Hawthorne and portions of Barnaby Woods. And my ANC single member district is 01, and that covers Western Avenue, past Pinehurst Circle, down towards Tennyson, and around back over to the tributary, Beach Street, back down to Oregon Avenue, and back up to Western. Thanks for coming tonight. Randy?
Hello, everyone. My name is Randy Speck. I am the commissioner for ANC 34G03. That's basically the area between Utah, Nebraska, and Broad Branch. Glad to have you all.
Connie?
Good evening. My name is Connie Chang. I am the commissioner for 34G05, which starts at Legation on the east side of Connecticut, goes up to the circle, comes down Broad Branch Road, and then it goes in on Nevada and Chevy Chase Parkway down to Jocelyn. So my last meeting tonight. Thank you so much for the 2 years.
Chaz?
I'm Chas Cadwell. I'm glad to be here. I'm the shortest term commissioner, having joined only in January. So I won't bother describing my district since its boundaries changed at the end of the month. But I did want to take my time to thank all 6 of you for your generous welcome when I joined late in the game, and you propped me up and got me integrated into this group incredibly quickly. And so I'm thrilled to have had this chance, and I want to congratulate those who are coming in and emphasize how important the effort everyone here makes to have this be a collegial body that see our strength when we connect together. And that's not always easy, and we may even prove that tonight. I don't know, but it's an incredible asset that is oftentimes not seen in the open meetings.
Thank you. Michael?
I'm Michael Zeldin. I'm 3G04, which essentially is Lafayette Elementary over to Upland and Western, bounded by Broad Branch and Utah. And like Chaz, I want to thank everybody who is not returning. I think it was a terrific 2 years, and I think that our record of accomplishments are long and meaningful for our community. And I also want to say, particularly to John Higgins, thank you so much, John, for your hard work, not only with the Murray ECC issue, but in writing our finances. This is an internal thing that the community doesn't really get to see, but John inherited a mess and is leaving us with a treasure of a system. And so I want to thank you, John. And I'm wondering, Lisa, whether he can be appointed ex officio treasurer.
Absolutely. With that being said, John?
Thank you, Michael. I think I'll take the X part of the ex officio. But yes, I'm John Higgins. I'm the single member district for 02. The boundaries of this district are from Oregon on the east to Utah on the west, from Military on the south, and to Beach on the north. And I'd just like to say this has been a wonderful experience, and I thank all of you for that.
Thanks, John. And Peter?
Hi, I'm Peter Goslin, District 6, from the west side of Connecticut back to 42nd between Western Avenue and the Chevy Chase Circle and Military, with a small peninsula to the east to Nevada between Military and Legation. Welcome. And to my departing fellow commissioners, oh, I envy you.
Well,
Peter, we all still live here.
Yeah.
Before we go on to the business of the evening, I just want to say that the last 2 years have been really terrific. And all 6 of you came in, not having had ANC experience previously, but all of you jumped right in, got very, very involved, enthusiastically and hardworking. It was just a pleasure to have worked with you for the last 2 years. I appreciate all that you did to make the commission the strength that it is in our neighborhood, and I think across the city.
And one of those people is Connie Chang. Did she get to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh,
I introduced
you did?
myself earlier.
She said, I don't have you on the list, damn it.
I came right after Randy, Peter,
Okay,
I
sorry.
have to go to the
but I
recording.
didn't say all the good stuff, which was it's been a lot of work, more than I had anticipated, because we dealt with some major issues. And I think that we've been able to accomplish quite a lot. We've tried, and we tried to be fair, and I think we've tried to listen, and we did the best that we could. And I call us the little engine that could, because I think we did. There's a lot going on because we care. I think a lot of us, not just on the commission, but in the neighborhood, in the community. And what people don't know is there's just a lot also that go on that's outside of the public meetings, which is our individual constituents who contact us for help. That is something that that we've all worked on that we don't necessarily share. So wanted to thank everyone for all their hard work, because you're my colleagues, and it'll be different starting January.
Will you still come to the farmer's market with me and sit out there in the cold with your mom?
If you ask, I might have to do that, Michael,
Okay.
just for good measure. That was fun. I like that.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, guys, we'll continue on with commissioner announcements. Only have a few announcements tonight. Just want to remind.
We should adopt the agenda.
Oh, sorry. Thank
We're moving right along.
I tell you, I'm working off of my phone because my printer ink, I have printed so much stuff. I told my husband from the ANC, he was like, I just gave you 2 packs of paper. And I'm like, I'm already out. So I'm working off the phone. Sorry about that. So with the agenda, are there any changes with the agenda, or can we adopt the agenda as submitted? Okay, all those in favor?
Michael?
7-0. All right, now commissioner announcements. So I have to switch over to a new photo. Oh man. Okay. For school year 23-24, the My School DC Lottery application opened today. So those of you that have kids in DCPS and charter, you know what that is. The application deadline for grades 9 through 12, oh wow, closes in February and March for grades pre-K 3 through 8. I thought I had an exact date that the application closes, but those are the months. Also, WMATA recently announced increased bus frequency. So there was about quite a few lines from DC, Maryland, and Virginia that are going to be increased in terms of their frequency. The 2 lines that primarily affect our area are the E4 and the L2. Specifically, that L2 bus is going to be operating every 10 minutes instead of every 12 to 15 during weekday rush hour. So that's a good thing. Don't have the details on the E4, but most of them are going to a 10-minute operating schedule. And I know we have traditionally been advocating for the return of the E6, and we will continue to do that. But it's nice to have, those routes have more frequent service. That's all I have. Any other commissioners have announcements? Nope. Peter?
I just quickly announced that I've met with a group of people who represent dog owners who use Chevy Chase Playground. And in the course of a walk around, ran into pickleball players who are getting organized. And I can just say, looking forward to the new year, I suspect that beyond all the other issues that we have to face, this new piece of our community that has been redistricted into our community is going to be a challenge, because there are so many demands put on that park, and with Little League, with the Tot Lot, with tennis, with basketball, and with these two new uses or extended uses. So I'll work with the chair to set up a meeting in that neighborhood to try to talk with people about their varying interests.
That's great.
Can I just add something on the park, which is that Janice Lewis George's office and I, Will Perkins in particular, has been working with DPS and DGS to try to get that park improved. There are tons of failures of equipment and holes in the playing field, and Michelle Wolin and others have been very active in trying to put a candle into the tushes of the relevant agencies. And Janice's office tells me that they're working on this, as well as the long-term water mitigation plan, which will allow them to then improve the track around the playing field.
So Michael, you're talking about Lafayette Park and Peter is talking about the Livingston Playground.
No, I understand, but I just
Right,
want to say
different.
the word park was the bridge.
Yes, okay, okay, just to be sure. Okay. All right.
Any other commissioner announcements? Okay. If
I-
any members of the community have announcements. Oh, Connie, did you have some?
I was just going to say that I will be, because I'm an outgoing commissioner, I'll be stepping down from my job as webmaster. So I will do what I can, and then I will hand that job over to Commissioner Gore, and then hopefully a new commissioner, or maybe her, starting next year. Just want to make that clear.
Okay. If anyone out in the community has announcements, please raise your hand. I don't know if we have any of the council offices. Doesn't look like it.
We have James Lewis is,
Okay.
I'm gonna make him a panelist.
Yep.
Well, he's coming up. Jim, remember to send me text.
James?
Hey everyone, sorry, I had some computer issues earlier, so I'm on my phone right now and I look a little different, but I hope everyone's doing well. We have some quick updates from council, but first I want to thank the departing commissioners from our office, from Janice. Thank you for all the incredible hard work you've done. And in particular, I want to shout out Commissioner Speck for giving an amazing testimony at the hearing on lead-free DC today. The council member wanted me to directly thank you for your testimony. And also I wanted to quickly update that we're joining ANC 34G, requesting a DMPD hearing on Chevy Chase development to be moved to January, so the community can be better engaged, and that request was accepted, if everyone can know that. Other than that, we had a really busy legislative week and a half. At last Tuesday's legislative session, the council passed the Safe Routes to School Act that council member Louis George introduced to make sweeping traffic safety improvements around schools. The bill requires DDOT to install at every DCPS or PCS school high visibility crosswalks, speed humps or speed tables, always stops or traffic signals at intersections, and raised crosswalks and curb extensions, and much more. The legislation would also expand the size of school zones, reduce the speed limit within school zones, and make it active, as well as make it easier for schools to request crossing guards. In response to a surge of traffic fatalities amongst children, this bill helps ensure that DC students can make it to and from school safety. So we want to thank Commissioners who supported this legislation. And yeah, just as we wrap up this year and, you know, going forward on a personal note, we really want to thank everyone at this commission, having been to these meetings before and engaging offline about issues that come up with each and every one of you. Our constituent service team really appreciates all the hard work you all have done and working with us to get things done. I remember walking around DGS sites with Commissioner Zeldin, and we had a great time doing that. So I'm excited for next year, new beginnings 2023. And I want to thank everyone who is moving on to better and brighter things, and people who are continuing to work with our office next year and representing their community. And I'm looking forward to that. And also just happy holidays. I'll share the newsletter link. I'm sure you all have it. I'm going to have a hard time sending the links in because of my cell phone status right now, but I will share the updates with Commissioner Gore. If that makes
Thank
sense.
you.
And provide text to Commissioner Gosselin.
Yes, we'll do. I'll CC everyone. But if you have any questions or concerns, let me know.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else out there in the community have announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our first agenda item. And Connie, that's you, Commissioner Chang, the progress update on Broad Branch and Spring Valley, the stormwater retrofit project.
Yes, we need to elevate a few people.
Okay.
More varied.
Yeah.
She's on there. And she needs to let us know if there's anyone else from her team that's there. We also have a resident, and maybe we should elevate Ross Eisenman because the alley that that's part of what we're going to talk about is
Can you guys
where
hear me?
he lives. Hi, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry,
Any-
before we start, can we also add Laura? Her last name. Ben, yeah, Ben Dernego as a panelist too.
We don't see her here.
Yeah, I don't see that person.
She said she's gonna join 7:15. I can start. I mean, she's just support. Hello everyone. My name is Morvarid. It's a hard name, I understand. It takes a little bit of time. I'm a project manager for Broad Branch Spring Valley from DDOT. It's a watershed-based project. We had our first public meeting back in August. Let me double check the date. Back in August 2022. I am just here for an update. This is not any presentation or anything. I just want to give an update that where we are right now. So as we presented back in summer 2022, we finished a preliminary design for finalized the selected locations for the green infrastructure facilities. We are very close to submit the 30% design as a schedule. We said we were going to finish the 30% design in winter 2023. We will have the 30% design ready by mid-January 2023. We are finalizing our survey. We selected the file. We are very close to wrap up the 30%. Between 30% to 65%, we are going to have another public meeting. That will be right after the 30% to get another input from the community to incorporate our next phase design, which is 65%. After the 65%, we incorporate all the feedback that we received and then submit 100% design. We will have another outreach before the construction starts, but the next public meeting will be mostly the biggest public meeting that you guys can give us a feedback. We are still hoping for the construction spring 2024 as a schedule. So that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions. Before any question starts, about the green alleys that we discussed with Ross, we selected the sites, we designed it. When we finished the 30%, we're going to have a separate meeting with you just to set up the expectation to see how it can help and how much it cannot help. Just set a real conversation that what's gonna happen with the green alley in front of your house. There's gonna be probably end of January 2023, early February, to just set up this meeting with you. And then after that, we're gonna have a public meeting. If any other impacted residents want to be involved, I can have this meeting with them for the alley. But this is gonna be with the whole design team as well. I don't think I have anything else, and I'm here to if you guys have any questions.
Let me have Peter and Commissioner Gosselin and Commissioner Higgins ask questions, and then I'll come back with some of
Okay.
mine.
Just double check if Laura
Oh,
joined.
let's see if Laura is there. And let's see. I don't see her there.
Volunteer.
Let me text.
Not here.
She's not here. And at some point, Ross, feel free if you wanted to jump in and say anything, but I wanted to thank you for that. And can you please in the chat, more of it, send a link so that other people who are on this call in the community who may not have joined in on that August 22nd presentation
Sure.
of what this whole project is about, that would be really nice for them so that they can look at it later.
For the
Have an
website, is that
opportunity.
correct?
Yes, the website, whatever that has the information on
Yeah.
the staging, but also just the purpose, but we can get into that in a second.
I can send it to everyone, right? Or
Yeah,
who-
send it to everyone so they all have it. Thank you so much. Peter, you go.
Before we start, sorry, Laura is on, so she just texted me.
Okay.
Oh, she is on now. I see her.
Yeah, see her. Sorry, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, very simply, what's a green alley and what's the wiring between the Broad Branch, Spring Valley, Stormwater retrofit and Nevada, our immediate neighborhood? You don't need these. I mean, I don't need the whole thing. Just I don't know what these terms.
The question is, what's the green alleys and the watersheds that we chose and how it works?
Yeah, what is a green alley? And then what's the wiring between this broader project and the stuff immediately in our neighborhood?
Sure.
Apparently an alley not near Nevada Avenue.
It's, the 5800
Yeah.
block of Nevada behind that block.
Sure. So green alley basically is type of the alley that is not impervious, it's actually pervious. It's a permeable pavement that let the water just soak into the soil below and goes to and filter the water and then send it to our sewer system. This basically improve the water quality of the environment and then help to reduce the pollutants before sending into our rivers that are bounded the DC. So there's a system. It's like we are going like around like 2 foot, 3 foot down, and then we've used like different types of rocks to help the water to reduce the trash before going to the system. The next question is about the Nevada Avenue and how it works. So how it works is basically the Department of Energy and Environment have selected watershed that tell us how, and we pick those watershed to help to improve the water quality for those watershed. So this year we picked Broad Branch and Spring Valley watersheds, and we put like different types of green infrastructures in those watershed areas to help them improve the water before sending them out to the rivers. About Nevada, I'm just looking at the map, sorry, because we have a lot of sites. We have a green alley in Nevada and between Nevada and Chevy Chase. Is that right, Laura?
That's the right one. Correct.
Okay. So this is another thing. We just propose a green alley that means that we come and we design and then we excavate. I don't remember if we have a pipe down for this. If the infiltration test, if the infiltration, that means like if the soil is good enough, then we don't propose this pipe. If
We
there's,
will have we're proposing a pipe bombard for the green alleys.
so we are having a pipe also. We excavate in front of the alley, we put the pipe, we put the soil, different types of soils and rocks, and then come back and have a pervious surface on the alley and connect that pipe to the nearest catch basin or manhole or sewer line. And then, so whenever it rains, the water from that area, the drainage area, all goes to that alley and then connect to the water, to the pipe, and then goes to our system. So that's how it helps. I hope that it, if you go to our website also, there's like a section in our presentation. I can send a picture of it in the chat that shows the layers of the alleys. I can send it here in the chat, I think. Can I attach a picture?
I don't know, you can try.
I
But you know,
don't-
but the question, Peter, is that we brought forth this particular alley in our area because Ross has had years and years, him and his neighbors, tremendous water issues. And so,
So
Peter,
you're on mute, Peter.
Yeah.
5800 Nevada, that block is the block between Nebraska and, no,
between Nevada and Chevy Chase Parkway, there's a small alley
Yeah, it's
that runs through.
Vada, Chevy Chase, Patterson, and
So
McKinley.
if you go north on McKinley and you make a left, there's a little alley. If you make a
Oh, okay.
left,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
that alley, it will run around and there's only one drainage at the bottom, but not at the top where Ross is, and it's been a real problem.
I think
So
that
it's being looked at.
The thing that I need to add is the water is only, we make like a V shape in the alley. So it makes a channel that the water just goes to that channel and then either soak inside or just be directed to any catch basin close by. This only helps that there's no flooding. It helps also the flooding because it's stored water in the alley and it doesn't let the water from the alley to go, it doesn't allow the water to go to any private property. So it all gather the water to one point and then channelize it and then send it to the sewer system.
Thank you.
Just for everyone's information too, there is a green alley that's been installed in our ANC. It's behind Rittenhouse, between Rittenhouse and the ECC field, right next to the ECC field. And that's worked exceedingly well. And I mean, it really has improved the drainage there significantly.
I also want to add that I know I've heard like in previous public meeting that some of them doesn't work mostly because of the maintenance issue. And I think I just want to know that we just the Department of Energy and Environment just got got funded and they started a program already for the maintenance of these facilities. For our next public meeting, we're going to have support from them. They already started it and we're hoping for having a better maintenance for those facilities. Thanks, Laura. So Laura also sent the green alley cross section in the chat. Interesting.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay, so John, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, I have two questions. One, they're not really directly related to the green alley, but I had a constituent recently send me a notice about two alleys near his residence. He said, which are in complete disarray, and he's wondering where he should go to get those cleaned up. Where would be the appropriate place to get DDOT or some
For
more
the maintenance? Is it a
maintenance? Yeah.
So I think you should put a 311, but I need to clarify because we are in a transition for the maintenance for these facilities between DDOT and DC, then DOEE. I need to clarify that with DOEE if it is how they get the complaints and how they go clean it. So,
Well, but also, Mavard, is it a green alley or just a regular alley? Because it might just be DPW, right? it's just
DPW
different.
even is still under DDOT for green alleys.
Yeah, but is
Yeah.
it a green alley or is it a regular alley?
Well, that was my second question. How, this I presume is just a regular alley. How does an alley get nominated for green alley treatment?
So we have accounts that we gather information for the requests. You can email me. I can help you how to put a request. It's just a simple email to our stormwater account. You can email, you give us, and then you give us the location, and then we do the assessment. We have like a spreadsheet that has the criteria, and then we rank it. And then if it's in the scored area that is actually beneficial for the community, we select them when the next funds come. So that's a request, and we usually come back to you within 2 days. I'm also one of the people that check the account. I can send it in a chat. You can also email me.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Ross, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, if I could, Morva, just ask you again, thank you, everyone that's been involved with this, particularly Connie and Morva have just been wonderful with helping me with this 100-year-old problem. Apparently, we've been in the house 30 years and it's been a problem, and apparently it's been in existence since the houses on this block, particularly between Oliver and Patterson, have been constructed in the 1920s. And I just want to ask you, are we talking about, this is the only specific I just want to ask just generally, are we talking about multiple catch basins as well, storm drains in that alley? Or just leaving the one at the base near McKinley? Because that's been the real problem, that the water has to travel down that alley to that single catch basin at the end of the alley.
Yes, I want to jump in. And Laura, when you said there's a pipe that's going to be put in, is there a way, because you're going to do that anyway, can you add another catch basin? Can you add a drain further north?
We can talk. I think that one thing that our team is noticing actually is there's sometimes really large drainage areas going to a facility. So in some cases, it might be beneficial to have a catch basin upstream of the facility at some point to, like, I guess, minimize like just this total amount of flow. But I can't make promises on this call.
Sure,
Like,
yeah,
it's gonna be
but
like
to
an
look at it.
engineering
Yes.
like judgment call, I guess. And we'll have to definitely look at that closely with DDOT and DOEE, because they're the ones, in order for the facilities to function properly, we also need to make sure that they're getting stormwater. So if we collect it upstream in a catch basin and we basically circumvent the facility and bypass the facility, then DDOT isn't getting credit, or DOEE isn't getting credit for the stormwater treatment that the facility would provide, which it provides by having the water filter through the surface, right? So if we direct it into the pipe, that's solving maybe like the flooding part, but it's not giving them the water quality benefit. That is really the main purpose of the project. So I think Mavard and I can definitely look into that for that particular alley especially. But it would only make sense if we have too big of a drainage area basically going into a facility.
Okay, so because I'm an outgoing commissioner, I really, I can only just hope, please, that you keep with it, because this is a problem that no homeowner in our area should be bearing. I mean, Ross and his wife have spent a lot of money trying to fix these issues, and people complain about this alley. I've heard multiple complaints, and the previous commissioner as well. So if the engineers can look at it, if you can solve both problems, that would be really nice, which is the quality of the water and also to reduce or eliminate the flooding. This is really critical because Nevada Avenue used to be a river. And so we all have problems, water issues. All of us have had to deal with it in various ways. And he's had to deal with it tremendously because he's on a lower plane. And anything you can do, we would appreciate. So thank you. I know you can't make promises here, but I just want it to be at the top of mind.
Got it.
Okay, so that's it, I think. Any other questions? I don't believe so.
Well,
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, you do? Good. Okay, Michael, please.
Not about this, because I've been dealing with an alley also where the water is flowing and we've gotten no success. But are you guys the same? Are you the people that we talk to about where we have streets that have pervious surfaces near Lafayette, and I think maybe it's Oliver, and those streets, in order for those streets to work, they sort of have to be vacuumed. And I don't believe they've been vacuumed in 5 years, maybe longer. And so it's a complete waste of, and as a consequence of that, the water just floods at the bottom of the hills and turns into ice skating rinks. I've asked about this of DDOT repeatedly, and gotten no answer, no satisfactory answer. So
I understand. We had contract for green alleys maintenance before with another department, Department of Public Work, DPW, for vacuuming. And then for the bioretention, it was another DDOT department called Urban Forestry that was supposed to do the maintenance. And due to multiple issues, we were not able to do the maintenance. So right now, because of those areas that are not maintained properly and the facilities are not performing properly, now Department of Energy and Environment currently as I'm talking, they are building the program, they hired the people, they are in negotiation between DDOT and with DDOT and Department, that both directors are talking and trying to kind of like figure the whole plan or program out. I got this request in the previous public meeting that the maintenance has been failed for other facilities that were designed and constructed. And I talked to the program managers of the maintenance program from the Department of Energy and Environment, and they are willing to come to our meetings right now for the next public meeting, so they can support us about their program and say for how long, how they're gonna do the program and the maintenance. But as of right now, it's not in DDOT hands for the maintenance.
well, okay. I mean, I walked with respect to this and the bioretention facilities. I walked around with James Woodworth. We looked
That's
at,
him.
yeah, I know. We looked at it. We looked at a dozen of these things. And the last update I got from him is we have 2 contracts. One's an assessment contract, one's a maintenance contract, and nothing seems to be moving. And he appreciates my patience. I didn't ever think I had patience. He appreciates it, but honestly, it's just one of those things that is incomprehensible.
It is. I understand, and I hope. I mean, James will join the next meeting hopefully, and we'll see how the program has been built and see what's the next step. But as of right now, I really don't have answer because it's out of DDOT's hands.
Do either of these kind of facilities get damaged by being not maintained over a long period of time?
Yeah, so over the summer of 2022, actually this summer, I had a research that about the performance of the facilities that are not maintained properly within the past years and how to basically restore them. So we are going to have, I just applied for a couple funds that was like a basic research with a couple interns that I did to how to we found the resolutions, how to restore permeable pavement that were not maintained properly and what's the budget for it. And so we have to, it's a long program, obviously, we have to go through the inventory and see which one doesn't work, which one needs to be restored, and how to restore them. But we had the solution that for the ones that are not maintained properly and how to restore them.
Just one last question. You said you DDOT got money for the maintenance, and
No,
is
we
this
did
money?
not.
They did not get money for the maintenance.
We did not know. The Department of Energy and Environment got funded.
DOEE got money, got
Yes.
funded.
Yep.
Okay.
No,
got it.
DDOT does not have.
Okay. All right. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
No, I'm sorry. I just lost track of what we're talking about, because I'm just looking at my notes and there was an alley between 32nd in Utah. Is that on your list as well? I think that Frank Moss has been speaking with Christian Pinheiro. I mean, my notes go back to August at least, saying, what's going on with this. And what I get is pardon the delay. But there's a repaving request in there. There's a stormwater catch basin request in there. The 311 number is 2200297550.
Can you, can you give me a 311, please?
22-00297550. I mean, I'd be happy to know if someone corrected this already and I wasn't informed, but as of
I can check.
as my last communication, all I got was, again, being thanked for my patience. But I really I'm not a doctor. I have no patience.
I am able to check that request. I don't believe it's in our watershed area. Is it, Laura? It is. Is it the border?
I'm trying to look now.
The triangle. It's close to the Triangle Park.
Yeah.
Just checking 1 second.
I'm gonna ask that we, Mavard, let's review that request and maybe get back to Michael, just to see, because I don't want to say anything incorrect on the call here, but we can look into that further to see if we have a facility there in our, as we progressed it.
Regardless, when we checked it, when we picked up facilities, we also checked the 311s. But let me check, because we usually coordinate before picking any locations. I'll get back to you on that. How can should I email you back? I don't know how to, can you shoot me an email or?
Zeldin is just 3G04 at 04 at anc.dc.gov.
Okay.
The commissioner for the District 4,
Okay.
and you should, get back to him that way. And then to wrap up, we have 2 minutes. Can you tell us the dates? There's a survey coming out, then you're going to have what exactly again? Because there's some other people who joined later after you.
I'm not going to go through details. Surveys.
Just
okay. So
right.
30% design will be ready mid-January 2023. After mid-January, we're going to have another meeting, public meeting, to get the inputs within the next 2 months after the 30%. So then after, sorry, I'm just saying, and then we are having the final design by fall 2023. And then we are hoping for the construction of spring 2024.
Okay, and then you will talk to Ross about the 5800 Nevada Avenue sometime in January. You'll be in touch with him.
Yeah, I'm going to
Okay.
separately be in touch with
Thank
him end of January, early February,
Okay,
right after 30% submission.
okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you,
Oh,
Laura.
thank you.
And if we have any more questions, we'll just, Commissioner Gore was on this email chain, so she can definitely help
Okay,
move things forward. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, and that is a 2022 election update by Gary Thompson. And if we can promote Gary.
Yeah, I can get Gary, and he may have someone else too, who will be joining us as well.
And Randy, this is your topic.
Right. Gary, is there anyone else you need to make a panelist?
No, just me.
Okay, all right. For those of you who don't know Gary, he's a former ANC commissioner, former chair of the commission, and he's most recently been appointed as the chair of the Board of Elections. And this is the first election, I think, that Gary has been the chair of the board. And a number of things have come up during this past election in November. And Gary has volunteered to come and talk to us about the election and maybe the lessons that we learned from it. So Gary, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you. I'll start by saying thank you for your volunteer service and best wishes for, I think, the 4 of you who are transitioning off of the commission. Best of luck. I was confirmed basically first of this year in January, and it's been a very busy election year, and I have learned a lot about our Board of Elections, how it works, how elections work in DC. And so now that our election is over, I'm shifting to a feedback and listening mode. I hope to spend the better part of the next 6 months just gathering input and hearing questions and thoughts from the public, mostly from ANCs. I hope to appear before a lot of ANCs. This is my first one, so I thought I'd start with the home base. So thank you for having me. And I only want to talk for a few minutes and then hear your questions. So what I want to say, in sort of big picture wise, is one of the main things I've learned this year is that our Board of Elections is a fabulous agency. It really is. I didn't really quite know what I was getting into at the outset. And I have just been blown away by the dedication and commitment and competence of our election professionals, starting with Monica Evans, our executive director, Alice Miller, our senior advisor, Terry Stroud, our general counsel. It's really an incredible staff. All the full-time employees have worked incredibly hard this year. I'm just impressed with the agency. We're not perfect. Not everything went perfectly well at every moment this election season, but we sprang to action every time something had to be addressed. And another big picture point I want everyone to understand is that we are truly independent. There's maybe some cynicism about that out there, but we really are. I mean, we get our funding from the district budget, but and we have oversight from the Judiciary Committee, but we make everything we do independently on our own. We make every decision as a member of the 3-member board that oversees the agency and adjudicates petition challenges and anything else that comes up. But we're on our own. I mean, no ex parte communication. Nobody calls. Nobody leans on us. Nobody suggests what we should do. Nobody nudges or cajoles us. We barely even talk to each other. We barely have time to talk to each other before we have our meetings, kind of the way you all maybe, you come together. The first time you're really talking about an issue is at the meeting itself. And that's been my experience. So we have a great board and a great agency. What's been a success? We've had, I thought we had a very successful election cycle. We didn't really have any major snafus or problems or issues. Some, I'm not discounting those, but it was pretty smooth. And the voters got their chance to speak. And I'm really proud that in DC, we broadened the vote every way possible, primarily through mail ballots and same-day voting. You can vote at any election center, any vote center. So it's a very broad menu of opportunities here in DC to vote. This cycle we hit 40.76% of voting relative to the total number of registered voters. That's a pretty high number. It's a transient city, so of our 500,000 registered voters, it's hard to say how many are sort of effectively inactive, but 40% is historically a very high number. We crossed the 200,000 mark. And of the people that voted, about 2/3 voted by mail, about 1/3 chose to vote in person, either same day or early voting. That's a pretty significant trend. It's not surprising in light of the trends that we've seen in states that have mailed ballots. It sort of tends to go towards 60, 70, 80%. It's undeniably convenient to vote by mail. And that's where we're trending. Recently, the council passed the Election Modernization Act, which makes permanent several things that we've been doing for 2 cycles now, namely the mailed ballots, drop boxes with a minimum of 55 of them, the opportunity to vote at any center, and a number of other things that are made permanent, and some new things like I think we'll have election day now where the schools are closed. So kids are loving that one everywhere. The final thing I wanted to add was the Fair Elections program has gone really well. It got off to a start in 2020. This was our first cycle where it really was implemented, in a fulsome way where most of the candidates availed themselves of public financing. There's still some auditing to be done, but it just worked really well, and it enabled a lot of candidates to join the field that otherwise maybe could not have figured out how to harness private funding. 2023, what are our priorities? We don't have a lot of time before the 2024 cycle starts. Not surprising, there's a calendar that is triggered by a whole lot of months in advance where a lot of things have to happen. But we've got some time in 2023 to do some work on our overall registration list, get some budgeting issues down. We need a lot of new equipment. IT is a constantly moving stream. There's a lot of improvements to be made. There's a lot of work to be done. But that's it. That's basically the overview. I'm really, really proud of the agency, and I look forward to working with them the next couple of years. I have a 3-year term, so I've finished one of them. And hopefully we'll position the agency for a 2024 election cycle that will be equally successul. We'll probably have a few special elections in 2023. There's always some ANC races and things that pop up, but we're really all about turning our attention now to 2024, and also especially in my case, I've got a lot more to learn. Just trying to listen. So I'd love to hear your questions.
Thank you, Gary. There are a couple of questions, very good questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to those as soon as the commissioners ask any questions they have. Any commissioners' questions? Peter?
Gary, in the case of redistricting, there was some problems I had with people who were along the boundary of the boundary line between the old district and the new district, who, in my case, several of them were put into, I am SMD 06, they were put into 05, and then Board of Elections sent out notices correcting that, but then they put them into 07 instead of into 06. Were there, beside the 3 or 4 people who came to me and said, what is this about? Was that an issue more generally with kind of where district lines, I'm particularly interested in ANC district lines moving, not getting the right grouping for November?
It was an issue in a lot of areas of the city. It's something that was brought to the agency's attention, and something that I believe the agency addressed and cured in every case without any ultimate impact. But everyone got some mailers, like a postcard, and that's when there were some mistakes that were caught, when people were sort of caught off guard as being listed in a different SMD, different from the one they were redistricted into.
Yeah.
So that was all addressed, but I'll just say sort of more broadly that not to excuse, but just to explain, the 2020 census was delayed by a year. And so that information came before the council about a year late, and they had the option to forego ward boundary adjustments until the 2024 cycle. But they decided, no, we want to accelerate it and get it done for the 2022 cycle. our board said, well, there's a really tight clock here and we could run into some problems because several things have to happen in succession. And if they don't happen expeditiously, it's going to cause practical problems. So not surprisingly, the board took longer than they intended to redistrict the ward boundaries. And then not surprisingly, the task forces took a little longer than expected to redistrict the SMDs. So they literally gave us, we finally got the data in, I want to say June. It might have been July. So there was, and then we have to mail those ballots to military overseas voters. Like there was only a very short window of time for the BOE to literally input the data, so that normally there would be proofs and test runs and things. So the real explanation is you just kind of had to go with the first run. And so the glitches came out when those cards were mailed. You know, so the bottom line is I think it was all correctly caught, but it's something that we're attentive to now and want to make darn sure that it's all fine-tuned perfectly without any glitches. So, you know, we got 9.5 years before we have to worry about it again, I guess. So.
Thank you.
Lisa? You're muted.
Hey, Gary, thanks for attending our meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you. I know there was some discussion not too long ago about, you know, drop boxes being located throughout the city equitably. Can you talk about, I think you said there was what, 55 located throughout the city? Is the BOE doing a better job in terms of putting them, dispersing them throughout the wards?
I really think so. There may have been more than 55. That's the minimum, but I forget the exact number. But early voting centers, same day voting centers, and drop boxes, you know, it's something we're all very attentive to, but I believe they're very equitably located around the city. I personally rode my bike to every early voting center, and I tried to ride by every drop box as well because I wanted to see where are they accessible. I'm a big bike rider, so a 50-mile ride to me is like a fun thing. So I said, here's a fun thing. I'll ride to every single early voting center. And the voting center, the early voting centers are fabulous. I found that they're well located in wards 5, 6, 7, 8, and there were really there was a lot of capacity. There were very low lines. There were low lines everywhere. There's actually sort of, it struck me as sort of fewer drop boxes in early voting centers in Northwest DC with longer lines. So I was pleased to see if there were lines anywhere. They were at the Chevy Chase Community Center, and they weren't even that long there either. So I hope so. But I just do want to stress how attentive the BOE is to that issue. It's something that a lot of people really think hard about and really on the ground go out and try to make the right decisions. And we put out publicly the location of everything for public comment. And we get some public comment that helps us you know, follow through on that.
Thank you.
Jazz?
I hope you didn't ride your bicycle on Connecticut Avenue to get to the Chevy Chase voting center.
I'm afraid I did.
Gary, thank you for coming. I've got two questions sort of pivot from Lisa's. Voter participation was 40%, you said, which means 60% of us didn't bother to vote. And so I'm wondering two aspects of that. One is differences between the primary and the general election. And the second is whether that participation is significantly different or different by type of voting across the parts of the city. And if there are differences, you know, who has the job of making sure that we get access that's, you know, the voter participation is a measure of all sorts of things, but one of them is, are you engaged with your community? And so it's the sub-city data is of interest.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the number is high in this election cycle. It's higher than 2020. I guess the comparable would be 2018, an off presidential cycle, and it was higher than that. So overall, we saw an improvement in the last two cycles, including this one. I attribute that largely to the convenience of a mail, having a mailed ballot. So, I mean, we do make it incredibly easy to vote if you're looking to vote. And I'm pleased with the increase in the numbers. There's still a long way to go. There can be much better participation. When I look at the ward by ward statistics, I'm pleased that there isn't great disparity between and among the wards. The turnout in Ward 8 is nearly the same as in Ward 3. There's some work to be done there to try to maximize voter participation everywhere, but the numbers are trending the right way.
Between the primary and the general, was there a difference this year? Or do you not remembering that data?
Yeah, I just can't remember off the top of my head. I don't want to misspeak, but it wasn't that different. I think it was higher in the general than in the primary.
Okay.
Which I think I'm remembering that because it struck me as not what I was expecting.
Right.
And I can maybe tie that into a question that Jerry Mallett I see has in the chat, that when we say 40% of what, the denominator is all registered voters, and this became a driving issue with the I-82 initiative this year, because they had to find 5% of registered voters citywide and then ward by ward, and that was tough for them to find that number of signatures. So they really brought our attention on the denominator, maybe being a little bit enlarged. And on the one hand, it's something I appreciate, but on the other hand, these are registered voters, so you can't just remove people. You're literally disenfranchising people. So there is a process to basically delist people from the active voter registration list, and it involves looking at the many thousands of return ballots as undeliverable, which Jerry pointed out. There's quite a lot of them. He says 65,000. And 87,000 in the general. That sounds about right. That's a lot of return ballots. So we're talking in a transient city, we're talking about some college students and some, other explanations for that. But there's a very tedious process for sending out additional mailers and before, but after a certain amount of time when verifications are made, we will drop thousands of people from the registration list when we're assured that we're not accidentally disenfranchising someone who wants to vote. So that ought to bring the denominator down, under 500,000 to, I don't know, 400,000 and something. I mean, it's never going to be, you're never going to get it down to like the truly active voters, because, some people just don't vote in one or two cycles, but they don't want to be unregistered either. So it's important to err on the side of inclusion. I see Samantha Nolan, former commissioner, asked about coordinating that list with death certificates. That's an issue. This Bureau of Vital Statistics has its own database. There needs to be better connections between ours and their database and the DMV to smooth out a lot of these things. I mean, I know from neighbors that have passed away that they still get mailed ballots. So that's another finer detail to drill down on. I will say for the record that even though people who are deceased still get mailed ballots and lots of undeliverable ballots are out there, I'm still not aware of a single case of someone picking up one of those ballots and voting on it. There's as everybody says, in so many places, there's actually zero voter fraud in that regard. But we certainly don't want ballots being mailed to people who aren't there. So that's one of I would list that as this family of issues is probably my top priority right now in terms of overseeing the agency and helping everybody drill down on all these details.
Any other commissioner questions? I got one that just fortuitously, Gary, today the Board of Elections was in the news on two different issues. One was the one that Jerry Mallett's brought up in his question, But the other was the hearing that was held today about the charge against Alyssa Silverman about the expenditures for a survey that was conducted prior to the primary. Maybe you could just explain what the circumstances are there and why. I mean, some people may be confused that the Board of Elections ruled one way before the election, and then now a different way now, but the issues were, as I understand it, different. So maybe you could just explain that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that question, especially this evening, with a lot of tweets out there. The Office of Campaign Finance is its own independent agency. They're independent of us. Although our 3-member board is their board, they're separate from the BOE agency, and they have a certain degree of independence that I understand a lot better now, and that I believe is important. They receive complaints for alleged campaign violations, and anyone can, any citizen can file a complaint. And, there's a process for whether they investigated it. If they do, what happens next, et cetera. So that complaint was filed regarding the Alyssa for DC campaign in August by Kareem Marshall, a candidate. And the OCF picked up the investigation. I noticed it at the time, but our general counsel reminded me that they're independent. Don't even reach out and ask them a question. Okay, so they, let it run its course, and they did their job, and they issued their ruling. I forget the day, but it was like October 27th or something like that. It was pretty close to the general election. I mean, I don't mind saying publicly, I was surprised by that. They had more time to issue that ruling. They could have waited until I think as late as November 27th, but my understanding is they followed their ordinary course, and that's when they would normally issue it, and they did. So it was there, it was out there. And the next thing that happened is the Alyssa for DC campaign filed an emergency appeal for immediate review by our board. And they raised 2 types of issues. One is procedural due process, that there's some stuff that happened in the OCF investigation that was improper from a procedural point of view, and separately they challenged whether there was a substantive violation itself. The procedural issues were intertwined with the timing of it all, and our decision was to proceed to address the procedural due process challenge as soon as we could, which turned out to be the Friday before the general election. So we held that hearing. The board ruled 3-0 that there were no procedural due process violations that the OCF had committed. And so at least on that basis, there was no reason at that time to vacate or reverse the ruling. And we just had to reschedule for a later time a hearing on the merits. And under our contested case hearing regulations, we have to basically hold it a full trial, opening statements, witnesses, exhibits, cross-examinations. So we just didn't have the time and didn't really want to accelerate that adjudication in such a short period of time, maybe reach the wrong ruling. And even if we did reach a ruling, didn't want to say anything else publicly in a sensitive time period. So today's when we had the hearing, which was public, and we heard all that evidence, and we reached our ruling that there's was no substantive violation by the Alyssa for DC campaign. So that's how it all comes out.
Michael, you want to ask that question?
I don't know if he's the appropriate person to ask, but my question is there any discussion about instituting ranked choice voting? It struck me that in the last primary for at-large council members, that would have been very pro-democracy to have that.
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't, at the BOE, we don't make those changes. We have to wait for the council to pass legislation. There is a bill pending. I think Councilmember Henderson introduced it. I think, I forget where it is in the committee cycle, but it's out there and it will be obviously up to the new council to decide whether they want to pass that. Our job is to be ready to implement it.
I didn't know, Gary, whether or not you, in looking at your data, could inform the council as to what you're thinking of the advantages, disadvantages of such a system might be.
Yeah. Well, we try not to weigh in on that ultimate decision. That's for them to make. But we certainly have paid close attention to ranked choice voting as it's been implemented in New York City, in Alaska. There's a lot of places out there. It's not so new anymore. It's been tested. People are starting to get more comfortable with how it works, what the glitches are. So I remember New York City had some problems 2 years ago. And so we're, our professionals, they go to these conferences all the time. They're on the cutting edge of everything that's happening. So whatever the council asked us to do, I'm confident that our agency will be able to, grab the ball and run with it and get it implemented in an effective way.
One last observation. I'm not sure, Gary, again, it's sort of a red herring in respect of what your mandatory responsibilities are, but there's a great book by E.J. Dione and Miles Rappaport out there on mandatory voting. And you might have a look at that. It can be implemented at the city level. And again, if you are looking at your data and you think that there's a value to it, it may be worth your having a look at their book.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I will take a look at that.
Okay. Gary, thank you very much. This has been enlightening, as
Randy,
always.
There's a hand raised. I don't know if someone wanted to
hold on.
ask a question. And then there was another question in the Q&A.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that.
Yeah, anonymous attendee asked about that some voters did not vote for their ANC rep. Are there thoughts on how to increase the familiarity or importance of voting for an ANC rep? Yeah, it's kind of tucked away there at the very end of the ballot. I guess that's where it goes in the order. But that's something that's a little bit beyond the scope of our office, but maybe the new ANC, the Gottlieb's replacement, I forget, could really try to get that across. We actually, today, we had 2 ANC races that were tied. They were both write-ins. Nobody was on the ballot, and people wrote in different names. And we ended up with 2 ties by write-in, and we had to flip a coin to decide the winner. So it felt pretty weird. I chose the Susan B. Anthony coin, and I flipped, I had to flip it. And it's like, and one of the board members said, this is a good lesson on how important it is to vote. One vote could make a huge difference.
And so if you called heads and it came up heads, you didn't have to serve, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was in this hearing I was at today. There was an ANC commissioner who said she had won her election by 29 votes, and she called for a recount. Ross, you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you so much. And Gary, I serve as a site coordinator in Ward 3, and I've worked in the polls as an election worker for the last 10 years. We had an opportunity to meet, and we also had some debriefings with the Board of Election staff this past week. And it seemed to me just a couple of things came up that I think you should be aware of. Another, I think it might be helpful for folks to know about. One is about security. I think you might want to become engaged in what the security policies are for an election. and what responsibilities a security officer, if there is one. Now, at my site, there is no security. No, and that has not been a problem. But I think consistency in terms of duties of the officers and assignment of officers to the various locations. You know, of course, now we only have 90 sites on election day, not 140 odd sites. I think that might be something just to make a little inquiry about for the safety of our voters and for the safety of the staff. Like I said, didn't have any trouble at 2 locations where I worked in Ward 3, but there were other people throughout the city that had one had a significant problem.
Yeah.
So I think just looking at that, then just what you said about the staff at the Board of Elections, I agree with you wholeheartedly about how dedicated they are to making sure things work right. And I think the public needs to know that. And I'll do anything I can to, you know, kind of raise the flag with the council about the need for financial resources and support. There are some key people that work there. If we lost those people, we'd really be up the creek. And they are public facing people that interact with thousands of election workers during an election cycle. I'm just going to throw this out to you. All the salaries of DC employees are public, and I looked at a couple of them. Some of those key people are seriously underpaid in my view.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk to Alice Miller or to Monica about that, or to the council, I would urge you to do so, because these are dedicated public servants that have to deal with a temporary staff on 7 or 8 days in a cycle, for 7 or 8 days in a cycle, and they do a magnificent job.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. I know that wasn't a question, but I think it's important for the public to know that.
Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate that. And you'll be glad to know we had a budget review recently with the mayor's office. And, you know, I not supposed to participate, but I stuck myself into the Zoom call, and I made pitches for increased pay. I said, listen, guys, it's a competitive environment. People have options. Professionals, experienced professionals can go work for a county election board. I mean, people are desperate out. Agencies are desperate out there for experienced professionals, and we've lost a few high-level people. And you can't blame people for going to take a job for $15,000 more, you know. So it's critical. And secondly, you'll be glad to know I lobbied for our election day workers, our poll workers. You know, we have to bring together hundreds of workers every 2 years, like yourself. And there isn't much pay involved, but it should be a lot more than it is. So I'm going to keep fighting that fight with Charles Allen and, you know, everybody involved to, you know, get some more funding. That's critical.
Let me just say one thing about that. You're absolutely right. These people are professionals. And I think from days past, their jobs have been classified as if they're clerical workers.
Yeah.
And they're much, much more than that.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about it. Thank you. And thank you, Lisa, for letting me chime in.
Great.
Okay, I don't think there are no other hands raised. Gary, thank you very much. We appreciate your coming and helping us understand what's going on with the election. Thank you.
And please reach out to me with anything else anybody has. My BOE email is gthompson@dcboe.org. gthompson@dcboe.org.
Gary?
Yeah.
Can I just add something real quick?
Sure.
Just to this is just piggybacking on your points and Ross's points about the staff. So just as a candidate going through the cycle, the BOE staff were instrumental to, like, my campaign chair and the folks that were working on a campaign. So the interaction with the candidates was just superb, very helpful. There's a lot of stuff that they're helping candidates navigate through that we just have no clue. without the support. And I mean, boy, some of the doozy emails we were sending, just trying to get clarification on things. I mean, timely response, very thorough response. So just thank you. You can thank them on behalf of the Gore for DC campaign. They're awesome. They really are.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
All right. So we are on to the next topic, which is the discussion and possible vote on the resolution with the compilation of the task force on racism recommendations. And that's my topic. So I'll just give a little backdrop of that and explain what I try to do. I'm happy to take amendments to clarify this if we need to. But we had 3 working groups from the original task force on racism that were tasked with giving or compiling information on 3 major areas. So community, which dealt with the broader community in our neighborhoods, education and mental health, and housing. Those reports, I think, were originally due sometimes in 2020. They rolled over to the commission in 2021, where we heard through a series of, I believe, 3 meetings from the various groups in terms of their recommendations. During those meetings, there was a lot of discussion. I actually listened to the video recordings earlier today. There was a lot of discussion on the recommendations. We tweaked some of those recommendations, and then we voted and approved those recommendations. What hadn't happened from that point is a summary document of those recommendations and an overall resolution saying, here's what the recommendations were based on the vote and the outcome of those meetings. So that's kind of what I was trying to do in rolling up this resolution. It maybe seems a little duplicative because we've already voted on the recommendations in past meetings. So with that being said, I'll put this on the table for discussion before I make a motion to hear from you guys, to get some feedback. I think I've heard from Peter and Chaz. I haven't heard from everybody else. So let me know what you're thinking and how you want to proceed.
So is it on the table?
Not, well, this is just open discussion. I'm just going to discuss it first. I think John and then Peter, y'all are very close in time.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm a little bit at sea as to why this is a resolution, since we already voted on this.
Well, I'm gonna let Randy address that. Randy just put his hand. And let me just say this: we have gone through this discussion for months. That's why we never had anything, because I think as a commission we couldn't wrap our head around this resolution. Some people wanted the resolution, some people didn't want the resolution. Then we had folks that were saying we need 3 resolutions for each working group. But one of the things that I think is really important and to keep in mind is there is nowhere in the ANC that compiles those resolutions or those recommendations. So if we go into the next ANC term, which we're about to go into, one of the things you have to remember is race, the Racial and Social Equity Standing Committee is actively working on these resolutions. They're working on a Word document. There is no official document that compiles all those recommendations into one place. And I think a resolution is the right place for it. I don't know how we captured it on the minutes. I don't think our minutes reflect all those changes. So it has to go somewhere. And that historical document, I believe the right place is a resolution. I might jump out of order, but John and then Peter and then Randy. We'll go in order.
Yeah, well, I mean, this effort overall is pioneering and terrific. And I don't want to seem that, you know, I object to the objectives because I don't. I think a compilation would be fine if it's presented as a compilation, you know, for the information of the commissioners, and we accept it as an accurate reflection. I could certainly approve that. Most of the votes were 7-0, but there were some votes, particularly in education, in which they were not unanimous. And I'm afraid that if we unanimously approve this resolution, it will diminish the fact that there was discussion and dissent on some of those. Because going back in the minutes, you know, there were like education, some of the educations were 4-3. Most of the other ones in the community service and so forth were 7-0. So I just want to make sure that we don't distort the record by sort of revoting something which papers over, I shouldn't say paper over, but kind of obfuscates the original vote.
And I think I sent an email around that said, I have no problem with putting the original vote in the resolution. We can easily reword that portion.
I have some suggested language. Could I read that?
Sure.
As a modification? Let's see. Okay. In order to make the resolution modified, we'd have to also change the title. So let me read the resolution first and see if this is acceptable to folks. The commission accepts the resolution herein as a valid report of previous actions taken in regard to the 20 recommendations from the Task Force on Racism, Community Education, Mental Health, and Housing Working Group, as amended by the commission and approved either unanimously or by majority vote of the separate recommendations. That would do it for me. And then the title of the resolution would have to change as well. I would say we approve a resolution. The title of the resolution is Resolution Reporting the Task Force on Racism, Community Education, and Mental Health Housing Working Group Recommendations, December 12th, 2022.
Okay.
That to me would it's a procedural thing, but I think it's an important procedural thing. So I offer that as an amendment or a modification.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Peter?
Yeah, so if there's not a problem with that, I mean, the only amendment to John's friendly amendment I would make is that instead of saying resolution reporting the Task Force on Racism's recommendations, I think what we're reporting here is our vote. So I would say reporting ANC action on the recommendations of the Task Force on Racism. I don't have Lisa, I don't have a problem at all. I think it's fine that we put together this summary. I think there are two reasons to argue against revoting on the substance. One is the point that
that's not even on the table.
Okay,
That's not on the table.
Okay, but then I would just say that I would like you to accept John's as a friendly amendment to replace number 1 on page 3 of the resolution that now reads, the ANC hereby adopts the recommendations, Just say the ANC accepts the resolution herein as a valid report of our previous actions. So this would replace 1 on page 3. With that, I can vote for this.
Randy?
Yeah, I probably can vote for that as well. This strikes me as being no different from what we've done many, many times, where we have discussed a resolution at an ANC meeting. We have made amendments to it verbally, and then we say, we vote on it. And then subsequent to that, we write up what the resolution was. And this is really no different from that. It's just that it comes a year and a half after we did it. So I think, any way we can do it that preserves the voting that we had before. And I went back and looked at least the March 22nd, 2021 minutes. And they're very thorough, and they reflect really exactly what you've got here, I think. I mean, I haven't gone word by word to make sure, but I think they're very, very close if they're not exactly the same. So anything we can do now to just memorialize essentially what we've already done is fine with me.
Yep, thank you. Connie, then Chaz.
I think the strength of putting it together the way you did, Lisa, is that it kind of gives you the background and it shows you all the numbers of recommendations that were made versus the single ones. I mean, originally, I really wanted each meeting to then, when we made the vote, to have a single resolution so that we captured it, right? And each time we captured it because we delayed some discussions because we were trying to work through everything. But I do think having a comprehensive document is good, but I definitely want clarity on the vote, like John said, because there were some discussions and these things I don't think should be lost because the working group reports and what the working group did and how the commission hours accepted it, because it was a year and a half after. I mean, it started in 2020, but then we took it on in 2021. I think it is very important to and so in this document, maybe link to because the meeting video recording is considered, I mean, people can look at it and know the back and forth, but
Yeah.
we should be able to go back to say there were these housing and community and education work group products that we considered. And then our recommendations was a consideration of what they produced and then what we came to in our vote on that. That I think is pretty important. And that vote should reflect each individual's report, as we've talked about last year. Like if we're not at 7-0 and we're at 4-2 or 4-2-1, we should say who voted the 4 and who voted the 2, because I think that is very important to capture that. And if we did that, I think, and we changed the title based on what John said, I think that that's important because I don't think we should revote. It is just mainly a summary, as you've said. It's a comprehensive document, and then it is a document that then can go forward because we have standing committees and, other committees, I think, for the new commission.
Yep. Okay.
I
Chaz.
mean, sorry.
Yeah, as we all know, I was not on the commission when you did this, and so I wasn't involved in the substance of things. So if we were re-voting, I would have to step out. But I think because the stuff is split into pieces and because this is such an important, and as I reread the committee assignments, it's an incredibly ambitious agenda. And so consolidating that, making it easier to access and basically laying it down as a starting baseline for a new commission and whatever new iteration there is of the committee seems to make sense. And indeed, there ought to be some way to more publicly and systematically keep track of what's going on so that we're reporting it to our constituents over the course of the year and not, and I've been here a year and we haven't had a presentation, I don't think, from the committee to this group. Maybe when, and that's, if it's important, it needs to be important.
I just emailed the language to everybody.
I got it. Thank you.
So,
Michael
Connie-
and Connie.
so Connie, would you be saying that you would want in here something like the priors are incorporated by reference? And that
Yes.
way,
Yes.
in it, anyone who wants to look behind this, and I like John's language is fine with me, but if anyone wants to look more granularly at what we did previously, then it's incorporated by reference and there's links.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would like that, and I think it is important. I mean, I did not have enough time to really go over it. I would like to go over it to make sure we've captured, because the language matters, the recommendation matters. Like if we just the word choice and so forth, and we grappled with that a lot, quite a bit. So it is important to, and everything is on that website, so we can actually link and reference into this one document.
Could I just suggest that on footnotes, what are the numbers? I think it's 7, 8, and 9, where we reference the meetings where we held these, and you've got the video links cited there. But I think the minutes are useful too. The minutes are the official record of what we did. And so I think putting the links to the minutes would be helpful.
Okay.
And have Lisa run out of blue ink on her printer too.
It only gave me 4 through 10. So it's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't not be more or less prepared. So add, okay, I can do that. Links to the minutes.
So
Okay,
Lisa, can you handle, there's 2 questions in the Q&A at some point. I think we need to handle it. But I do appreciate having this all in one spot. Just to say that again one more time.
yeah, I know Michelle has brought this up before. The resolution, and just for Elizabeth, we will post this up on our website really quickly. And it does kind of detail, to address Michelle's feedback. There was several discussions that the ANC had in community presentation on the report. So the resolution kind of outlines that. So I think
we should emphasize that there is nothing new in this resolution at all.
Yeah.
It is all just reflecting what happened a year and a half ago, and which is not consolidated in one place on our website. And so it's just it's a useful tool.
Yeah.
It's a compilation.
Yeah, it's a compilation, and there was definitely feedback.
Yeah.
For these resolutions or recommendations. I mean, we solicited community. There were a ton of community members actually on the working group, so there was opportunity. Definitely, I believe, sufficient opportunity for community feedback.
Well, we held multiple meetings on this too.
Yeah, definitely. John.
I think, as we go along with the SAP and the affordable housing, there'll be room for community engagement in that process as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to clarify, could I just clarify? So I hope that John will accept, I hope you'll accept John's proposal. Okay, and I hope John will accept mine to change the title from, John is resolution reporting the task force, the resolution reporting the ANC's votes on the task force on racism recommendations. And I hope that John's language of the resolution will replace number 1 on page 3.
I don't know what you're saying about number 1 on page 3. I
So
guess
number 1 on page 3 is the resolved, and here's how it reads.
Oh, the result, that's page 2 on mine, so I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so I'm sorry. My printer put it at the top of page 3. And
yeah, that's fine, Peter.
Okay.
Peter?
Yep.
If we said ANC's actions on the task force rather than votes?
Fine. I mean, but there were votes, but it's fine with me. I mean, I just, in other words, I'm just trying to focus on what we did with regard to the task force's recommendations, which is what this is about.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you can go with actions, I will support your amendment to my amendment to my second amendment.
And may I please, I would like to have clarity in the title, which is, it's the 2020 Task Force on Racism. I mean, I think it's important to be clear because we're voting on something now that was already done then. We took it up in 2021, and now we're compiling the whole thing in end of 2022. So if we just, those kinds of clarifying points,
yeah.
I don't have time to go over it, but I will try to give you a few more, but I think
that's fine, Connie. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I accept those friendly amendments, the one offered by John and the one offered by Randy, and the comments including from Peter, friendly amendment, and the comments offered by Connie and Randy on the clarification of the votes and footnoting to the minutes. So I move that we accept this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
John,
did you raise your hand? Okay. 7-0. Okay, so I will work on getting this. And Connie, can we put
the draft?
This first draft?
Yeah.
on the
I can
side?
do it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it after this meeting. I just didn't
Okay.
do it before.
Thank you.
Because it came, I just couldn't actually. I had
No
work to
problem.
do, but I'll do it right after. People can look. And then,
Thank you.
as everyone should know, the chat and the, Q&A and the video recording comes tomorrow. So
Thank you so much, commissioners. So next topic is standing committee reports, and we'll start with you, Peter, on zoning design and development.
The only update I have for you right now is that I put out a request for new members to fill 2 additional slots on the commission. With Lisa's forbearance, we agreed to a 35-day instead of a 45-day period. It will close January 5th, and I hope to have to consult with you all, with you who are remaining, and with the new commissioners about the suggested new members for us to vote on at our first meeting of the new term, January 9th.
Okay, great.
How many indications do you have, Peter?
I think I have 12.
well, people have submitted something to you.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Okay,
got.
I know of one
yeah,
of the 12.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jerry, and I mean, there are a fair amount of interest.
Great.
We'll figure out a way to do this, to winnow this. So, okay.
That is great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Next standing committee report is the Racial and Social Equity Standing Committee. So I'll just give a report on that. Our last meeting was December 9th, which was Friday. Just to make sure the community knows, we are no longer going to have the December 20th meeting, which I think had been on our agenda. We moved it up so that the committee could get through some work that I'm going to share with you all in a few minutes. We talked about update of my conversations with Councilmember White's office on speaking to the group on the Common Ground Act of 2022. And that is legislation he's introducing to deal with the sale of public land. Were not able to present in December. So and it never fails. Every time I get an email, they give me an update. So I got an update today that they're trying to look to schedule in January. So I think if we could get them to come out and talk about that, that would be great. And then there's 2 documents that I'll share with you. One of them you've already seen is a summary of accomplishments to date. The committee did, let me pull this up. I'm sorry I don't have this stuff printed out. Like I said, my printer died on me. But the summary of accomplishments to date was updated to include the outreach that we did, and this was a 2021 accomplishment. And the committee compiled accomplishments for 2021 and 2022. But this one was to update our outreach to a neighbor that posted on Nextdoor about a racist experience they had in Chevy Chase, DC. So we did reach out to that neighbor and talked with her, quite extensively about what happened and her reaction to it, and to see if we could offer support. So that is something that we updated on that document. So I'll send that to you. And then one of the things that we had discussed previously and talked about was the standing committee's recommendations going forward into 2023, 2024. So basically, the document is intended to encompass recommendations from this year's standing committee to the ANC going forward to continue the committee's work and improve upon its effectiveness. I'm actually not going to read everything on here. It's quite extensive, but the areas that they looked at and they discussed committee participation. So there was definitely a lot of feedback and discussion about what the meeting expectation should be. One of the things they said, if a member cannot meet a 5 meeting per year threshold, they will be considered to have resigned from the committee. The ANC should advise the committee members that as everyone is working as a team towards the same goal, there should be a sense of trust among members in developing their committee culture. And some of this definitely came out of some of the issues with the housing recommendations and just members being absent on the committee. So they're making recommendations to address that. They also in terms of meetings, so how often meetings should occur, how they should occur. They talked about in-person meetings to allow committee to develop a stronger working relationship. Membership, they urged that we continue diversity, and diversity should be a primary consideration for committee makeup. And that is with respect to age, race, gender, and socioeconomic status. They talked about leadership, had quite a few discussions about leadership, and basically beyond the commissioners being in leadership roles within the committee. So maybe co-leading the committee, drafting agendas, scheduling it. So just taking a more active leadership role. They're also looking at communications. It's interesting because I got an email from Mary Rouse, basically asking about, more communications on the listserv. And that's something that, this committee is already talking amongst itself. They want to be more communicative about what they're doing and their plans. So that was one of the areas of recommendations that they made. Also reporting. I have a tendency to give a lot of the reports. So they are looking at ways where a committee representative would be able to and can do that. So incorporating that in the structure. Events. Ideally, and this is kind of dovetails with community recommendations, ideally the committee should hold several activities per year, ranging from education, awareness, discussion, celebrations, commemorations, responding to current events. Then they talked about education, and in particular in education, one of the things that we discussed is the purpose of the committee is to comment on public policy issues through a racial and social justice lens. And given that, and given the goals and diverse makeup of the committee, it should be expected that different perspectives and backgrounds of committee members could present opportunities for all members to share and reflect on their experiences. They suggested that white members of the committee should be encouraged to participate in anti-racist education and training in order to refresh, inspire, and educate how white members can better participate in multiracial groups and be strong allies. So I'm going to send this document to you guys from the Racial and Social Equity Committee. We'll be obviously be discussing it with the new commission going forward. There might be some updates to the resolution that we have, particularly among, because I believe our resolution calls for 2 commissioner co-chairs. And I do think their recommendation on leadership, is a strong recommendation that we should probably change our resolution, to make sure that we incorporate that. But you're free to give, your feedback on the recommendations, and we can share that with the incoming commission. And, the committee's excited to move forward and to get to work on, the work that they're tasked to do, including the recommendations borne by the Task Force on Racism. So with that, and the other thing that we reminded folks on the call about recruitment membership for next year, we got pretty much everybody re-signed up. A few people we haven't heard from, and that's okay. The last thing was the draft historic district resolution. And I have definitely been going back and forth with that. I just do not have it ready. I told the guys that I was going to get it out to you all, but I had been working on a lot of other stuff. So that resolution is not ready. And it might be more appropriate to present it to the new commission going forward anyway. So that is the update on the Racial and Social Equity Standing Committee. We don't have a next meeting date. The last activity we have is a meeting actually tomorrow with Dr. Hewitt. And she's, I believe, with the under the Executive Administration Equity Office. So she'll be talking about some of the equity work, and we'll be sharing with her what the committee does. Looking forward to that conversation, and we will have a meeting schedule at the top of the year, like we have our meeting schedule, so that you all in the community know exactly when we'll be meeting. Any questions you guys have on the update? Connie?
I think what might be good is when you start in 2023 to have a schedule of meetings. And just like we have a schedule of meetings.
Oh, that's what I just said. Maybe
Oh,
I didn't say that clearly.
oh, you mean that you will for the whole year, not
Yeah.
not January. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We're on the same page then. It just
Yeah.
didn't post that up. Okay.
Yeah,
Because we have a dedicated page to race. So
yeah. Exactly. Yep. Thank you. Anything else on racial and social equity? I know there's some committee members in the audience. If you guys want to add anything really quick. And Peter Lynch, what is the reason behind the number on the commission?
I
Yeah.
think he's referring to the zoning design and development.
Oh,
I think.
okay. I thought that was right. Peter, okay, so I'm done with Peter Lynch's question. Did you want to answer that?
Where is it? What is
In
the
the
reason
Q&A?
number? Sure, there's a possibility we can expand it. I mean, Peter, as you know, we've had conversations, you and I and Randy about that committee. Many of the, there's just a reality that loads of the issues that committee should help the ANC respond to are on us right now. And I took too long between the passage of the resolution on the small area plan in May and getting the committee even set up in any form in September. And so we're behind the ball. And I did a bare bones resolution. It was 7. I think once we get the additional 2 filled, I'm all for considering more. I think the workload, if we're really going to help this commission do the research that would allow it to be wiser in dealing with these issues, we can use all the hands that we can get. But what the case I'll make to you as an incoming commissioner and to my fellow commissioners, including incoming commissioners after the turn of the year, is we need to get these positions filled. And we need to get this committee up and running quickly, because the biggest issue that this community will face in the next several years is on zoning design and development is what happens at the community center library. And this committee is not going to be a useful tool for the commission if it's not up, running, and working. So that's my answer.
Yeah, and just to piggyback that, I 100% agree with Peter. I mean, we need them now. I need them now. The community needs them now. And I
want to point out something. You're going to have to start talking about Peter G and Peter L.
I know.
Yeah.
And I think too, and I think this is also part of the beauty of the race's recommendations going into the new commission, is they started out with a fairly large committee. They've, had a lot of time to reflect on what works kind of in, committee relationships. And they've come up with some good recommendations. I would not really stress the numbers. It's the people on the committee being able to accomplish the task. So you really want the right people. And I've heard, Connie say this over and over. We need the right people on the committee, because it's some technical work. Folks that can actually do that work and accomplish those tasks. It's a lot of work. And, I've had people emailing me. I've received a lot of emails just today on the surplus hearing. There's things that the community wants us to do to prepare for that. And it would be a great thing to pass to zoning and design committee. So we're definitely, like Peter said, in the throes of this process, and we definitely can't delay, this committee at all. Okay, next standing committee that I have on the agenda is the newly formed Array. I had
What was that gonna say?
my name under here, but this should really, be John's update. John, do you want to kind of go over the recent meetings on the working group task force and the appointments?
Sure, yeah. We had an organizational meeting about a week or so ago with the 5 members of the task force. One of them, Abe Clayman, decided to resign from the post. I thanked him very much for volunteering. I understand what his issues were in resigning. In the interim, we have been able to secure another person for the neighborhood with an excellent background to take Abe's place. He is Marek Gutman. He is a resident of 29th Street, and he lives about 2 blocks from the field. And he has agreed to join the group, so we now have our full complement. Just by way of background, he is a senior fellow at Brookings, involved with urban affairs. He has a Georgetown law degree. He has a degree from the University of Pennsylvania in government administration. And he also has a degree from Wharton in business. So I think his background would be excellent for this job, and the fact that he's well-versed in municipal affairs. And we really appreciate him stepping forward. So now we do have all 5 people. At the last meeting, I think two major things happened. We had a very interesting session on who was going to step forward to be the chair. And it took 4 feet rather than 2. And our 2 chairs are Jenny Backus, who lives in the neighborhood, and Michael Osborne, who served in a similar capacity on the Ingleside Construction Task Force. So that was number 1. Number 2 was an issue related to the scope of the task force, and we think we pretty much determined that the tree work, while it might be separate from the BZA directly, is an integral part of the construction project. And so that activity is going to be covered by the task force as we go forward. So that's about it as far as but I'm really pleased that we're up and running.
Do we need to approve, I mean, just to be consistent, do we need to approve this?
We approved we could approve, we could have a motion to approve Marek Goodman to be the 5th person on the
How do you spell his first name?
Marek. And be careful when you type that, because autocorrection turns it into market.
Or Murray.
Right. Marek Gootman, Marek Goodman.
I second the motion.
Who's calling?
Those in favor, raise your hand. 7-0. And Randy, when you typically did appointments, did you do a motion on the appointments, or how did you do that?
On the task force?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a long time ago. I really don't remember. But I think we did do that for the other members of the task force. So we should do it for Marek too.
Do you, John, want to make that motion to accept Jenny?
You just did. Oh, as being the chair,
The
co-chair?
chair, yeah, that's what I
Oh,
meant.
the chair.
Oh, we don't.
I would move that Jenny Backus and Michael Osborne serve as co-chairs of the MOU task force.
Second.
We can vote on it. Not necessary, I don't think.
Okay.
No,
All those in favor?
I think it's important to vote on the chairs
Okay.
because they're advising, right? And they're helping.
Yeah. Okay, 7-0 on that.
I think the MOU says that the committee picks the chair.
They did.
Does it?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
They
Yeah,
did. We're sort of certifying that.
yeah.
We should bring
If they
Gary
change
back.
their minds.
We
they
should
get-
bring Gary back to certify this.
All right. Now I think we're at commission business, John. Or no,
Peter,
No, me, yeah.
Minute.
Okay, so Michael, you started this fancy dancy stuff. Everybody's got their notes in whatever that document is you used. I need to get it into Word, and I need to get it from Word. Take all the edits that I got, get it into so I can make a PDF of it and sign it. How do I get it out? Every time I download it, I get something crazy.
Can't you just download the Google Doc into?
The first time I downloaded it, it downloaded as an HTML, and the second time I downloaded it, it downloaded it as a docx dash files. So it's a folder with all sorts of junk in it. So look, I'll either figure it out, or if you've got any expertise here, let me know. Otherwise, I'll spoon over all the edits that are in that into a Word doc and then circulate that. But I will take all the edits. Assuming I take all the edits, I move that we pass the, oh, we actually have 2 sets of minutes.
You know, Peter, you could probably just
I
go
didn't
to
see.
YouTube or Google and just say, how do I,
Peter, send me the link to the document. I'll turn it into a PDF for
how
you.
do you turn a
I'll
Google
turn it into a
Doc
Word
into a
Word file.
Okay, we have to,
Wait,
we have,
Peter,
Yeah.
there are 2 sets of minutes?
yeah, because then we have the October 20th public
You
meeting.
sent that, okay.
Yeah, and we have, I sent that Thursday. And
I
then,
never saw that.
and we have the November 28th minutes that I sent yesterday at 6. And I moved it. Why the shaking the head? I mean,
I missed it. I've been so busy. I'm really
yeah, I
sorry.
know. I just,
I
we
usually-
need, I did the 11,
I know.
yeah, for you.
Sorry. I know.
So I
Thank
move
you,
that we,
Peter.
with the edits, I'll accept all edits. I move that we approve both sets of minutes.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
Vote? Thanks.
7-0. Okay, John, on the financials, checks and FY23 budget.
Okay, let's do the FYI, the 23 budget. We introduced it at our last meeting and we had a discussion, and I don't think there was too many or any real changes in it. So I would move that we accept the budget as submitted at the last meeting, in which we start with a balance of 35,000. We end with a balance of 12,000, and we have expenditures of 42,000. Just to make sure that everybody realizes this is kind of a windfall situation, and the commission should be prudent with these expenditures next year. So I move acceptance of the budget.
I second.
Second, Connie has a question, so we're at discussion. Connie and
Right.
Jay.
So my question is, we sent out for the first time a survey on what people wanted to do with this budget. Did we get any responses back? That was my question.
And that's why my hand was raised. We threw together a survey in a hurry and we circulated it at the last minute, and we got a huge response of 12 answers.
I'll take it.
So I probably shouldn't report any results, but we asked people what their priorities were. We listed 4 or 5 options, from more grants to community groups, to invest in equipment for hybrid meetings, to make our webpage more interactive, and steps to increase interactivity with citizens. And we gave people a chance to write other things. And so, and we got, I don't want to report results because they aren't representative of a big enough group. But we did get, among the 12 people, there were clear directions. But we also asked people about where they learned about issues affecting the community, and got a pretty uniform sense of both from the listserv and from the Chevy Chase News and Notes among that group of 12. And then we asked which groups they feel best able to help them keep up with what's going on. And the 2 they listed were CCCA and HCCDC. At the top of, we had a list of 4 or 5. But again, it's an experiment in new ways to listen to the community, but we really didn't promote it very well. And I'm sure the instrument itself could be done to be more done better and ask questions in a way that elicits more useful information. So I think looking ahead as we try to get the commission more engaged with our constituents, I'm happy to be a volunteer support for that.
Thank you. Randy?
Yeah, going forward for next year, I think you do have to include those kinds of communication outreach efforts in your budget. But please continue to put the pressure on OANC. They have money to spend on that for commissions. They have not spent it. We need to get their help as well, because they can significantly improve the tools that we have for being able to reach the community. And so please continue the pressure on them. I've done it for the last 3 or 4 years and haven't been successful yet, at least in getting a product, but hopefully.
Hadn't they promised us to pilot a whole tool that?
Yes, and we would be the pilot ANC for that. But it's not yet materialized, and they tell me now it's next year. We'll have it for you next year.
I'll reach out to Kent on that.
So
Okay.
in the meantime, a 71-year-old troglodyte will help you do a survey.
Thank you.
You see, Randy, you just have to have patience.
I know. I'm not a doctor either.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we have a vote on the budget?
Yeah.
Yes.
I suppose we accept the budget as proposed at the last meeting.
And there was a second.
Yeah, I seconded. Yeah.
All those in favor, raise your hand. 7-0.
Okay, on checks, we have 4 checks. I have to correct the record a little bit from the last meeting with our wonderful, seems like perpetual vendor, GoDaddy. We are paid up on that courtesy of Stephanie. I said that we had reimbursed her. We have not. I was looking at a different reimbursement document, so I apologize for that. So we need to put in a reimbursement to Stephanie Van Pelt for $107.88, and that will cover us on that account. Next up is Verizon. We normally get their bills around the end of the month. I called Verizon this morning. It only took me 3 attendants to figure it out, but I got the amount of that check for this would be the one which is due January 2nd. That is for $162.60. Our third item is a Zoom reimbursement to Randy for $222.58. And lastly, a reimbursement to Lisa for MailChimp for December of $24.38. So I move that we approve each of these checks. And that should do us for the month.
John, I have one more. Did you get the one for Cal Simone,
No, I did not.
that email? Give me a sec. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see.
Maybe I did, but I just overlooked it. So let me know.
Yep, I sent the, we gotta add that one because I think it was for an expense.
Cal says it's $240.
And I
Yeah.
sent you, with that, I sent you the receipt and all the paperwork for it.
Okay, what's the purpose of that?
That is for the IO Google group that the Racial and Social Equity Committee uses.
Okay, I'll check my email. If I somehow missed it, I'll get back to you. But so I would move, we approve that reimbursement to Cal Simone for
Okay.
$240.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor? Raise your hand. 7-0. Thank you.
And I raised one other thing about the checks. I mean, the reimbursement for the Zoom is for the bill that was at the end of November. We don't yet have a mechanism for paying by debit card for the Zoom going forward. We'll get another bill at the end of December. And there's not going to be another meeting until the 9th of January. Now, I will get charged for that, the way things are set up right now, unless we've got another debit card or a way to transfer that to someone else.
I promised to look into transfer and I didn't do it.
Well,
So-
I found,
Lisa, are you good to go to the bank and get a card this week,
Mm-hmm,
as soon as possible?
yeah.
well, and I'm gonna be inaccessible essentially after the 19th. So
Okay.
if we could get that done before then, otherwise, I'm perfectly happy if we don't get it done, to go ahead and get it charged on my credit card for the end of December, and you just reimburse me after that. So that's fine too. But I just think we need to have ideally, we'd have the debit card in place. I would be able to change the ownership. I found a website, Peter, that tells me how to change the ownership. So, but I can't do that until I have a debit card to charge it to someone.
No, yeah, I mean, as long as Dawn was favorable to us in pioneering the debit card, we should take advantage of it. So
Yeah, if
let's
that'll
try to get to
work.
the bank as early as we can. How about tomorrow?
Uh,
You guys work that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm available.
Okay.
Okay.
So
All this talk of finance reminds me to remind Lisa and Peter, because Randy reminded me, that we returning commissioners need to submit to the board of something, our expenditures for our election this year.
it's 60 days after the election is certified, and the election was certified toward the end
November
of
30.
November.
November 30.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we got loads of time.
Right.
So for next meeting, January 9th, 2023. I'm sure all of you all that are not on the commission will be tuning in. Possible agenda items: election of new officers, adoption of bylaws, adoption of the 2023 meeting schedule, hopefully for committees and for the commission, adopting of a resolution for the Advisory Neighborhood Commission Security Fund, and authorizing the treasurer to pay the $25 fee, and the ANC Code of Conduct resolution. I know we had discussed that, and it seemed like you guys were in favor of it. So that'll be something maybe the folks of us that are staying on can take a stab at, along with the new incoming commissioners, and have it ready for January 9th. Anything else for that first meeting?
I hope the three of us who are staying on go to the January 2nd swearing in. The virtual one was so much fun 2 years ago that I can't wait.
That was chaos.
It was the happiest moment of the whole 2 years. I mean, so anyway.
I definitely plan on being there in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will not be. I think I'm in New York still with my mom, so I'm going to have Janice swear me in separately.
Okay.
So we have one more question in the Q&A.
Mhm.
And I think there was some confusion. So Elizabeth says, I'm confused. Have you issued a housing report? And if so, where might one find it? Thank you. And a very basic question, is the affordable housing that you are recommending rental housing or ownership housing? So
I would just refer her to our housing report, which is on our website.
right.
That's
It's
Yeah.
featured on the website.
But in terms of the timetable, we had a racism task force that was set up in 2020. Part of that task force was broken up into 3 groups. One was a housing work group, and that work group worked for 6 months. It was community members and Randy, because he served on the commission at that time. And we put together a housing report, and we had presentations that we gave at that 2020 commission. For public meetings, and then we discussed it in our commission in 2021, and some of those recommendations that were put forth were modified. And so you can find all of that under our website, under task forces and issue areas, and it has that in there, the racism task force. So you should be able to find it, and the housing work group report should be in there. And today what we discussed was putting together a document, a resolution that compiles all of those recommendations from each of the 3 work groups. So Elizabeth, I hope you're not confused right now. But that's what we put forward. And then we also, this past year, had a whole Chevy Chase small area plan that, of course, talked about affordable housing. And the work group did mention ownership. And the commission itself wanted to have more deeply affordable housing. That was something that we discussed. And so you'll see it. Once this meeting ends, I'll upload the draft resolution that we talked about today.
And I just put in the chat my announcements and a link to the task force
Thanks.
site on our webpage. So everything is posted up there.
Yeah, and once we get that final, what we voted on tonight and all of that, then we can post it up on that same page. Okay.
Okay, with that, I am adjourning. Time is 9:16 p.m.
You can stop the recording, but don't leave